All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City Council meeting here tonight on August 10th, 2026. Go ahead and call it to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Amara.
Present.
Dowden Calvillo.
Present.
Riddell Harris. Here. Mayor Davis.
Here. Thank you very much. And we are coming out of closed session. Nothing to report. Thank you very much. And roll call, let's have Pledge of Allegiance. If we can have Council Member Amara lead us tonight. All right, we have no mayor's accommodations tonight. We will move on to adoption of the agenda. This is the time set aside for council members and or the public to ask for removal, postponement, or a change to the listed sequence of an agenda item. The agenda will be approved by consensus of the council. Do we have any requests from council? Nope. Any requests from the public? All right, agenda stands. Moving on to consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine in nature and will be approved by one blanket motion with a roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless persons request specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for discussion and separate action. Any items removed will be considered after the motion to approve the consent calendar. Do we have any requests from council to pull items?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I need to recuse myself from item number 5 as my daughter is one of the applicants for the Youth Commission.
Excellent, thank you. And do we have any requests from the public? Seeing none.
I move we approve the consent calendar
As amended.
Wasn't amended.
with
Or
the
wasn't
recusal.
amended. No, we're not.
Oh, we're just gonna
She's just
do a
recused
recuse.
herself.
Okay, got it. Sorry.
I'll second it. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Amara.
Yes.
Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Riddell Harris.
Yes, except item 5.
Perfect. Mayor Davis.
Aye. All right, consent calendar passes. Moving on to public comment. This is the time provided so that the public may speak to the council on any item not on this agenda. Please make your comments as brief as possible, not to exceed 3 minutes. The council cannot act on items not included on this agenda. Items may be referred to staff or placed on a future agenda. And I know we have some public comments. So you want to lead us off?
Madam Mayor, if I may, as a point of order before we begin our public comment, we are aware that there will be some public comment tonight, and what we'd like to do is encourage no applause during public comment period. If you agree with the previous speaker and you want to express that, jazz hands work great, but we just would appreciate that you respect the decorum of the council chambers and give everyone an opportunity to speak. The other thing, Madam Mayor, is if you are going to echo what the previous speaker says, if you would just simply get up if you'd like and state your name and say, I'd just like to agree with the previous speaker and sit down, or you can add something different. But you're welcome to get up and do that, but just to allow everyone an opportunity to speak and so that we can get through the agenda. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Fantastic, thank you. All right.
Hello, Council. My name is Nick Zagaris. I'm a longtime Auburn resident and 30-year career in public safety. In order to get my job, I had to go through an extensive background process that involved, checking me out, making sure I'm fit to serve the public. In order to participate in my child's school, I went through a background process, and additionally, when I got my concealed weapons permit, I went through a giant background process. I was more than happy to do that, and I was more than happy to consent for anything that public needed of me. That being said, I do believe that I'm entitled to my privacy, and I'm entitled to my family's privacy. My friends are entitled to their privacy. My neighbors are as well. I don't support the flock cameras that are going in town. This company's been caught multiple times being used for nefarious things, such as spying on their spouses. We've had officers that have used it nefariously. Of course, I would like to say our officers wouldn't do that here, but I don't know. I just want to go on record as saying I would like the flock cameras removed, and I don't support our city using them. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, great. Thank you, guys.
Hi, my name is Zoe Haskins. I'm a resident of Auburn. I graduated from Placer High, and I've lived here pretty much my entire life. So I just want to ask, have any of you guys been ghosted before by like a friend, romantic partner, anything? No? Well, I've been ghosted by all of you. None of you thought fit to respond to any of my emails expressing my concerns about Flock, so I thought I would come in person and express them myself. A few months ago, I did a public records request from the Auburn Police Department for the audit logs of the Flock cameras between the years 2022 and 2026. For the 12 cameras within Auburn city limits, we found that 4.5 million searches from over 4,000 out-of-state and federal agencies, including the FBI and U.S. Border Patrol. This is in direct violation of California state law. It violates Civil Code 1798.90.55 as well as Senate Bill 34. And even after the Attorney General issued a bulletin in October of 2023 explicitly prohibiting agencies from sharing license plate reader data out of state, Auburn continued to do so until 2025. So not only do these findings show a clear violation of state law, they contradict almost everything that we as residents of Auburn have been told about these cameras. The Auburn Police Department's Flock Transparency Portal mentions that all system access requires a valid reason, yet the audits show that 1.4 million searches left the reason field blank. It also states that people, gender, race, and facial recognition is not detected, despite the fact that Flock's freeform search platform is marketed as being capable of searching for people and characteristics like clothing and tattoos. So lastly, the Transparency Portal's policy claims that immigration enforcement is a prohibited use. Yet if that's the case, why is U.S. Border Patrol searching our cameras? The way I see it, either these violations are allowed to happen or they were somehow done without the knowledge of our police department. Either answer is unacceptable when dealing with technology that is so invasive on such a large scale. And I'm asking that you put this item on the next agenda and consider ending your contract with Flock. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Jay Ross, and I just want to say we have some really brilliant community members here, and I'm really glad you guys are advocating. That's one of the greatest parts of Auburn. I also want to tell you that we have some really incredible events coming up, and so for those of you that really, really love and want to help Auburn thrive, we're having an event tomorrow night here at the City Council Chambers with the Auburn Economic Development Commission, and it's called Small Town Talk. And it's all about businesses and really how to help our community thrive. The other really cool event that we're hosting is Friday night, and that's a kickball game. It's the city who holds the record right now against the Chamber of Commerce, which Michelle's in here, so you know, I know she's got her team. She's like going to all the coaching experts, so watch out, City of Auburn. I know we have our chief in here and all of our amazing police who are definitely going to come join, right? And so that's on Friday. That's with the food truck fiesta over at ARD, and we'd love to have all of you come join us. And again, we're committed to making sure that Auburn thrives, whatever that looks like. Our last event is also on the 18th, and on August 18th, we will be revealing our new business, which is the Greater Auburn Collective. And with the Greater Auburn Collective, we'll be putting together a cohort of 12 individuals to help them get to their next step in business. It's a pilot, so it's all free, and the goal is to get businesses ready to pitch so we can get investors, and again, continue to help Auburn thrive. So 3 really incredible events. We hope to see you guys there, and thank you so much for advocating, you guys.
Jay Ross, what time's the town hall tomorrow?
Mayor Davis, what time is the town hall tomorrow? 5:30.
I know
Come
I'll be there.
5:30.
Yes.
6 o'clock will
PM.
start.
Yeah.
5:30. Be there at 5:30.
And it's available on Zoom as well, I believe, correct?
Thank you so much. Yes, our amazing clerk, Amy Lind, will make sure that
Zoom and recorded.
we have it up on YouTube.
It will be live streaming on the YouTube page, the same page that this meeting is currently streaming on.
Yeah, so stay tuned. We'll have one more series for our town halls, and that will be social investment. How do we keep up and invest socially with our communities? So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jared Lovell. I've been pestering some of you about Flock since March or maybe February. Flock represents a new generation of intrusive mass surveillance products. It is not just an automated license plate reader. When I leave my house off Luther, I can go east past Placer County's flock camera at Bowman, or west past Auburn's flock camera at Derry. Shockley Road has no camera, but I can't get to the freeway without passing the camera on Auburn Ravine or the 2 by Save Mart. The nationwide Flock network will follow me from sea to shining sea once I get to the freeway. Flock, a private company, has built the largest network of surveillance cameras in the United States, with small towns like Auburn footing the bill. Flock cameras do read license plates in real time, poorly, but images are also sent back to Flock's data lake for more detailed analysis. Vehicle description, identifying marks, stickers, and even cell phone use by the driver are all things that Flock's AI can now pull from those images. Flock even advertises that it can track bicycles and other objects, such as dogs and humans. It does this with identifying characteristics. This query feature is called Flock Freeform. No license plate is needed, and no vehicle is needed either. Freeform will allow operators to find a dark-haired man in a Subaru with a bike rack, or a tall woman wearing a brown skirt walking. Flock did not offer the Freeform feature in 2022. It is difficult to reconcile these new abilities with legacy ALPR behavior as it was understood or explained to this council in 2022. Flock's power is its vast network of cameras and its data lake of time-stamped images from which their AI can derive any number of new capabilities, such as Freeform. This is the product Flock sells, ever-increasing observation without a warrant. Endless new features where our movements and appearance are the raw ingredients. Auburn doesn't have to accept local or nationwide mass surveillance by AI. Over 675 of us have signed a petition to this council in the past 5 days. Please resolve to cancel the Flock contract and prohibit new surveillance technology purchases without public discussion, input from privacy experts, and a council vote. 100 cities and counties have canceled their contracts, and we can too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Blaine Smith. I'm 17 years old, and I just graduated early from Confluence High School as a junior last year. I find it like inspiring that so many people here today are here for Flock cameras, and I don't find it necessary to go on my whole spiel, considering everyone else has already laid out the basis. But there's been multiple cases of officers and deputies using Flock cameras to track people down who haven't done anything unlawful. The company has been like, people will shut down. Sorry, I'm really nervous. The company will shut down, like cities will shut down Flock cameras, and the company will turn them back on and take like the bags off and just turn them back on. There's also this camera owned by the same company called the Condor camera, so they say that license plate readers don't use AI facial recognition, but the Condor cameras do, and they're in the same premise, so I don't think that they would be different anyways. Thank you. I'm really nervous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bolo has something.
Hi, I'm Scott Johnson. I live in Clipper Gap, and I gotta say I was sorry. But I was not surprised that when I heard a CAP radio report after the last Roseville City Council meeting that 71% of the license plate reading that their system had done had been incorrect. I wasn't surprised because I'll just give you a personal story. I bought a new car in October at Auburn Honda, and a couple of months into 2026, I got a letter from a bridge authority in the Bay Area saying that, I owed them for going through the bridge toll. And they sent along a picture of a car that same year, make, model and color as mine, but it was a grainy picture and you could not read the license number on the license plate. I looked in my daytimer schedule. I had not made a trip to the Bay Area yet in that car, but I looked at my daytimer schedule and I was 150 miles away tuning a piano up here in Placer in Nevada County. So in order to try and get out of this unlawful conviction, I would have had to go to the Bay Area. So I just paid it. But that's what happens.
Okay, thank you.
Jazz hands, Bolo, jazz hands.
Good evening. My name is Jack Parker. I served with the Marines for 5 years, and while the government did own me for 8, I still believe in having a right to privacy. I would like to thank you all for coming in and listening to your constituents this evening. I'm here to discuss not only my issues with Flock, but all ALPR cameras like Motorola, Axon, and Rekor. Low-hanging fruit to start. These cameras are a blatant example of a surveillance state. They track every vehicle to and from an area. They retain that information in a database and allow any contracted individual to access the data stored. These are more than just red light cameras or speed sensors like many of us have grown up with. These are using emergent artificial intelligence technology to create a heat map of your movement across city, county, and even state lines. If I were to take photos of you going to and from work every day on every intersection and sell that data, I would be listed as a potential stalker. I think law enforcement would take serious concern with me, but it's lauded because a corporation is doing it and selling it to cities and counties and states. Moving on to less talked about issues, these cameras are often installed in violation of Federal Highway Administration safety guidelines. Many poles do not have breakaway bolts at their grade, if they have any at all, and it's a violation of health standards. Now, obviously, the companies will say that they follow the rules, and because that's the right answer, but any quick internet search will prove otherwise. If anyone takes the time, they can look up a man named Steve Eimers. He's known as the guardrail guy. He has multiple videos going through and showing how these things violate NFH safety guidelines. Most importantly, as we have heard before, I think these cameras shift the burden of proof onto the defendant. Our Constitution is built upon innocent until proven guilty, as well as the burden of proof falling upon the prosecutor. To make this shift is going to have a paradigm change unlike anything we've seen in law enforcement history. Finally, I find these cameras to be unreliable for law enforcement. As previously mentioned, 71% of Roseville's AI camera readings were misread per Business Insider. If I were to go to law enforcement and give them bad information 71% of the time, several times a day, I think they would probably stop listening to me or detain me for obstruction. I don't know why, again, we're paying them to be wrong 71% of the time. They're not the weatherman. These cameras are a threat to public safety and privacy and make federal government overreach easier, as also previously stated. Any ALPR contract needs to not only be withdrawn, but all cameras need to be removed, as these private entities allow outside forces to use these for personal gain. We can look to LA for proof of that. And thank you again, and please don't feel too watched on your way home tonight.
Thank you. All right, thank you. And I'll also add that we have received public comment up here as well that we'll review. Got one more? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Alicia Watkins, resident of Auburn for 30 plus years. Love it here. On July 23rd, 2025, Flock employee Randy Gluck streamed footage from a gym and pool at the Marcus Jewish Community Center in DeWoody, Georgia. Then on September 30th, 2025, Flock Vice President Bob Carter streamed live footage of a kids' gymnastics class. These men weren't looking for license plates. They were showing potential customers what the capabilities of the Flock system are. They were showing how easy it is to spy on people. Also in Georgia, at least 20 law enforcement officers have been fired and or arrested for abusing Flock cameras. One of those was a police chief arrested last year for stalking and other charges. That former chief committed suicide earlier this year. All of this occurred in just one state, so imagine how bad the abuse is across the entire nation. Closer to home in neighboring Arizona, the outspoken conservative constitutional sheriff Ross Teeple made a bold public statement that he believes ALPR cameras violate the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, and he has stated he does not support renewing their contract. But that's in conservative Arizona. What's happening here in blue California? The most controversial police department in the most populous state echoes Sheriff Teeple's concerns. Los Angeles, the city that went up in flames after the violent beating of Rodney King, that saw protesters hospitalized when cops shot them in the head with non-lethal rounds, has allowed its contract with Flock to expire. LAPD, arguably one of the most aggressive police forces in U.S. history, said Flock is a step too far. So my question is, why is Auburn okay with spending thousands to violate the constitutional rights of its law-abiding, tax-paying citizens? Why is Placer County? If we need more surveillance on the streets, put that money into the pockets of officers by giving them more patrols. Wasting resources to have machines do the jobs of trained professionals is not what Auburn or Placer County should be known for. Our constitutional rights and our privacy deserve more respect than that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jessica Mickelson. You have nothing to fear if you have nothing to hide. This is an argument I've been hearing a lot in favor of Flock cameras and other surveillance equipment that is showing up around the county. Their point being that you should be okay with being tracked if you're not doing anything illegal. If we are not doing anything illegal, then why are we being tracked? It is a grotesque invasion of privacy without cause. This is unconstitutional at best. And there have been several documented cases of these cameras being used to track people who have done nothing wrong. In Georgia, Flock demonstrated that they could access footage of children in playgrounds and schoolyards. In Texas, law enforcement accessed over 83,000 cameras to follow a woman across state lines as she was seeking an abortion. There are several cases across the country of law enforcement officers using these cameras to stalk family, love interests, and exes. This push towards mass surveillance is unacceptable, and I firmly believe that we the people have made that clear. We need to get not only Flock out of our county, but other surveillance companies such as Axon and Motorola. We are not okay with being tracked and traced, and neither should you. To quote Ben Franklin, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What up, Council? My name is Stuart Wanger. I didn't have anything prepared. I wasn't planning on speaking this evening, but I just wanted to say to you, all you guys, all you gals, nobody likes these cameras. Whether you're the most leftmost lefty or the most conservative right-wing person, nobody likes these cameras. Nobody likes Big Brother spying on them. You know, however justified the reasoning be for tracking criminals or, you know, yada, 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 whatever it might be. It's kind of like if these cameras are used to help the police, then, you know, my car is a cup holder, you know. Our cars have much more uses than just being a cup holder, but being a cup holder is one of the things that they do, right? But anyway, my point being is that if you ask anybody how they feel about these cameras and explain to them what they are, nobody will like them no matter what side of the aisle you're on. I think it's a pretty bipartisan issue that most people would come against. So that's all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can.
Thanks.
There you go.
You guys can hear me? My name is Adam Lee. I'll keep it short. I work for CDCR, the California Department of, well, essentially rehabilitation, but the prison system in California. I'm an ITS, which is a software engineer or just like an IT specialist. Make a lot of applications both for the officers and the inmates, or incarcerated persons, I should say. Flock cameras, just as someone who's spent his entire career working as a software engineer, the way they gather data it's impressive if you don't think about how scary it is. It's insane. If you drive by a flock camera and you have a smartwatch like an Apple Watch or an iPhone in your pocket, it has the ability, your phone, unless you always turn off Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, if you're like a person who does that, it's pretty rare, it's putting out a signal at all times, looking for Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. The flock cameras have a transceiver and a receiver. They're actively pinging the signal of your phone as they scan your license plate and all license plate. It can determine distance, figure out which car. It doesn't do the best job, and that's why a lot of times innocent people get pulled over. But it assigns all of the devices that are particularly in your car. You go buy like 100 of these a day if you drive to Roseville and back. It has a profile on you based on DMV data, your license plate, and all the devices that you use, and associates them. And then it uses AI to determine, have you gone to a place where maybe you're a problem, or more realistically, they'll say it's to track for stolen cars, but you flip a 9 on a license plate to an 8 accidentally with AI, and the wrong person gets pulled over and has a gun pointed at them. That's crazy. We don't use AI in the prison system in California. We do use it to write code sometimes, which is reviewed by other software engineers, but there's no facial recognition. There's no AI used to track the iPads that prisoners can pay for, which, there are security features for sure, but what Flock is doing is actually incredibly insane. It's like what China's surveillance system is like, except done by a private company, so it's okay, you don't need a warrant. Anyway, I'm babbling. I don't like these, but I don't think I'm a minority here saying that. That's my piece.
Thank you.
Mayor Davis, just really quickly for the record, I wanted to clarify the emails. There were 9 emails total received that were public comment for this evening. All were in opposition of flock cameras, and they're available, they're printed out and available in the back of the room and in my office. Thank you. Council has them as well on the dais.
Hello, everyone. My name is Derek. I'm from just outside the area. I came here obviously to talk about flock cameras because I feel like flock cameras are a little bit bigger than just, Auburn City Council. It's kind of a nationwide issue, so I saw the opportunity to coming here. It affects me. Something that people don't really think about, or haven't really mentioned before, is knowing that these flock cameras exist and wherever we go is tracked and monitored. I just don't go certain places like Auburn, for example. I don't come here, spend money here, or do anything here because of these flock cameras, and I know they're there. Every day, we're always facing all these different ways that we're being tracked, monitored, all our biometric data is being taken, sold, doing whatever, all these things that we have. All of our pockets are filled with, devices that have all these tracking things, but there's usually always some kind of silver bullet or way to go around that. There's a consent issue, you can opt out. At the very minimum, you can just not participate in those activities. You can go back to the way things were without technology. But with this flock scenario and this AI surveillance that has spread across the United States without anybody seeing it, is creating a whole different system where we can't opt out of it, you can't go anywhere, you can't go places, and no one is secure as exactly what the information is being collected is. They don't know where it's going, they don't know who has access to it. I don't think even you know how it's being used. I don't think the police departments know how it's being used. The thing is, a lot of people have gotten up and they've talked about, all the bad things. We always know that they're bad because they've been, they've flagged the wrong person, they've stalked the wrong person, all these reasons. But there's a lot of legal reasons why they are bad as well, and we haven't talked about any of those. There's a few Supreme Court cases that basically make flock cameras completely illegal, and everybody should know them, especially council members that are going to be voting on this. You might want to get the legal team to jot this down. I'm not a lawyer in any way, but these are real things. Carpenter versus U.S., cell site data, that's your data where you are. need a warrant to get it. So the idea that just because I have a phone, I'm okay being tracked, that's not true. You have to have a warrant to get that. Cats versus US, your privacy is not just your physical location, your house, it's your information. It's where you are, it's your conversations. Kylo versus US, use of technology to learn information that would be unknowable without the use of that technology. The DA was using a thermal imagery on people's houses. Flock cameras are using infrared light and all kinds of random technology that nobody knows, and we wouldn't be able to gather that information without the use of that technology. And then lastly, this is the one that should make you want to tear the contract up tonight for Flock, is Chattree versus US. This is about geofence warrants where the government is no longer allowed to just say, hey, I want access to everybody's location in this specific area targeted at Google. That is no longer allowed. They have to get a warrant for that specifically against one person. This Flock camera system does just exactly that, creates a giant dragnet of surveillance. So after reading all those things and going through the Fourth Amendment and being a public sworn servant as myself, same as you, we're supposed to protect our Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. At this point, anybody that is pushing or backing this AI surveillance is by definition a domestic enemy. Thank you.
My name's Sandy Conroy. Okay, that's tall as him. Anyway, and I have lived here 26 years as a neighbor of Mike Holmes. Sad to see, but at any rate, there was a flock camera placed outside of our neighborhood April a year and a half ago, and I kind of was checking what's this all about. I thought it was aiming at the intersection because the other neighborhood had a honey oil lab that was a bust. And then on my street, we do have drug dealers. So I was thinking, well, maybe they're just tracking who's going into these neighborhoods. I did go to the police. They said, hey, we're having a meeting on all of our war, whether it was a rifle or the flak, whatever. Anyway, I went there. I was the only one there, and I said, we chatted up for a little bit. But anyway, I said, did you have this many people come to your talk when you talked about Flock before you had? No, nobody. At any rate, what I want to say is that the camera that's outside of my neighborhood, as I'm heading down Auburn Folsom to go to Indian Hill Road, about 2 months ago, it got turned around, and it was recording the backyard of the neighbor on Palomino Court. For a good month and a half, it just got turned back to traffic. So, unbeknownst to anybody, I mean, that family was being recorded. There's also one on 49 near Marguerite Mine Road. As you come heading back towards City Hall on 49, I just take a look left, there's a camera, and it pointed 90 degrees to the traffic on 49. It's not recording license plates, it's recording faces and stuff. So I'm very much against this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Melizabeth. Most of what I was going to say has already been said, but I think that if corporations are going to make money off of my privacy, then I should have a say in whether or not it continues. I didn't sign a term of service for this, and I think there should be complete transparency. If it's really so effective, all these uses that they're saying that it can be used for, then I think we should have, if it's not just completely abolished and all of them taken down, which would be my first choice, complete transparency of who controls the information, how long is it retained, who can access it, what safeguards exist, and what limits prevent its use from expanding beyond its original purpose. And I recognize that meaningful policy change does not always happen all at once. So if not prepared to remove the existing system, then I would ask at minimum to stop its expansion. Do not add more cameras, increase the scope of surveillance, or renew the system without first conducting a thorough public review of its costs, effectiveness, privacy implications, data retention, access, and long-term consequences. And I think we should all have access to all of that in real time and be able to review. We should all be a part of it because you're on candid camera. Okay.
Thank you. And I think that's a good place to pause it. We've seen, we can see lots of jazz hands, and I won't stop anybody from public comment, but I would like to ask our city manager if it's possible to maybe work with police chief and pull together some more information for us as council, or to do a town hall, to do something that we can just gain some more information.
Absolutely, Mayor. We'd be absolutely happy to be able to partnership and have a community meeting as soon as next month.
Okay.
To be able to provide a forum as you just described.
Okay, great. So September community forum to kind of clear some questions and discuss it.
To have
with some more
answers
info.
to
Yeah.
some of the questions that have been brought up about how the data is being used and all the settings that we have and all that information. Okay.
So will will be brought back to council then?
Probably after the town hall, so we can get the
After the
feedback.
town hall
from-
Correct. So I think at that point, we would collect information, be able to answer questions at the town hall format, and then absolutely a council item following that meeting would be a good logical next step.
Okay. And,
At the discretion of the
my,
council.
My, I would like some specificity as to information specific to Auburn, both benefits and problems that we've had here. Is that possible to get from our provider?
Absolutely, yes, it is. That is would be part of the data and the facts that we would want to bring out, make, model. What is it? How has Auburn used the technology? What are some of the benefits that the police department has experienced? What are the transparency portals that either we use or we could use? And so all of that information could be shared during a community forum and also included within a report back to council.
Great, thank you.
And a discussion of the terms of the contract and what's allowed. And, I know that we approved a contract at one point, but just really kind of digging in there as well to understand what potential loopholes could be in that contract. And also, if we could just kind of talk about the terms of the contract.
I think that's important.
Yeah.
But I also want to address, I think someone brought up specific legislation or laws that maybe
Case law.
council at least needs to know about.
Madam Mayor, can I just say something real quick? So first off, I wanted to say thank you all for coming in and bringing this to our attention, that it is your concern. We're here to represent our residents and to hear from their concerns, and I appreciate you coming to our city council meeting, which is a very appropriate way to let us know that you have a concern. So I really appreciate you all coming. If anyone wants to do more public comment, of course. The reason why we're not talking to you and discussing it is because we're not allowed to discuss things that aren't on the agenda. So I just wanted to clarify that. We have to give direction to staff, and then we have to discuss it at a later meeting that's been agendized so everyone knows we're talking about it. So I just wanted to be clear as to why we're not responding to your concerns, or when you ask questions of us, we're not allowed to discuss that as a council right now. But we are saying in a town hall meeting, we are allowed to have that dialogue and be part of that conversation. So that's why we're asking for a town hall meeting where we can have more of that conversation and get answers to your questions and discuss those types of things. So that's why we're talking about that. So thank you all. I really appreciate you being here tonight.
All right, do we have any more public comment?
Hi, good evening. My name is Curtis, and I'm a resident of Auburn, unincorporated Auburn, unfortunately. But I had a whole speech prepared. Everyone here has pretty much covered everything. There were some nitty-gritty details that could go into, but it sounds like the town hall might give us space for that. Instead, what I wanted to talk about tonight was something I keep hearing repeated on Facebook and repeated from the community about how, we all have phones. Who cares? We gave up our privacy, a long time ago, so it doesn't matter. I'm not a criminal. I don't have anything to hide, so why should I care? And I just want to talk about how it actually goes a little bit deeper than that. There's a framework that I wanted to touch on from a legal scholar by the name of Daniel Solov. I might have butchered that last name, forgive me. He argues that the nothing to hide view assumes that privacy is about keeping embarrassing or incriminating secrets. But database surveillance creates harms that aren't about hiding at all. He describes several distinct risks, which are aggregation. Tiny pieces of data can become revealing when combined. One scan may be meaningless, but a comprehensive movement history is not. Exclusion. People often can't know what data exists about them. We can't access it. We can't correct it. Secondary use. Data gathered for one purpose is reused for another, sometimes without our consent and sometimes beyond what the scope of the technology was originally justified for. Distortion. Records can strip away context, creating misleading conclusions. All of this leads to a central problem for policy when decision-making is driven by data we can't see or challenge. The harm is not simply that you might be embarrassed. The harm is powerlessness, being subject to outcomes derived from records that are opaque and hard to correct. What this means for our city. What should we do about this? I'm not asking you to pretend that policing isn't necessary. I'm asking you to recognize that ALPR systems, what they actually do. They collect location data broadly, they can be searched quickly, and they can be repurposed or used to build suspicion after the fact. If we're going to use these tools, the question isn't only will we use them responsibly, it's do we have limits on when and how data can be searched? Do we require clear documented warrant-based standards for access to persons' movements? Can the public know what is collected, how long it is retained, and who can access it? Is there a meaningful way to challenge errors or remove inaccurate information? Are we preventing secondary use so purpose creep doesn't become the norm? And because the cases described aren't theoretical, they're examples of lawful behavior being transformed to suspicion by systems that make searching fast and frictionless. If our city wants public trust, we have to address that reality, not with slogans, but with safeguards. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I believe that concludes public comment. Okay, thank you. And I echo Councilmember Riddell Harris's comments that thank you for coming. This is the most appropriate place to address us, and why we aren't responding is because our hands are tied in terms of public comment. So we're directing staff, and I think we're all interested in learning more. So thank you for coming and being brave and coming up to speak. So that's great.
I also just wanted to address, I mean, we as council members do get quite a bit of email from constituents about a variety of issues. Sometimes they're from constituents, sometimes they're outside. But I just want to assure that, you know, we may not always be able to respond to every email we get. I know, and I'm pretty sure I speak for my colleagues, I read them all. And I ask staff about things, you know, I'll bring things up to staff and ask questions. So, you know, we may not always be able to respond, but, you know, we do read them, so.
And we're not allowed to talk to each other
We're
on
not allowed to
email,
talk to
so
each other
oftentimes
about
we've
them,
all
so
forwarded the same thing to
one,
chief.
yeah.
So we do read them, so don't be shy.
Yeah. And the town hall meeting, the way that will be structured is there will be an opportunity for staff presentation on the item. Council members will have a chance to ask questions, and there will be public comment at that time as well. What we probably won't have are direct conversations between the public and staff, but when public comment speaks, we can certainly take note and then ask staff to address those issues so that we don't have a lot of that, you know, it gets disorderly and so forth, but just to sort of set that tone for that town hall, and that's what we've been doing in the past with our town hall meetings.
However, at a town hall meeting, we can't make a motion to
No
correct
action
the
can be
situation.
taken.
No, we'd have to put it on a future agenda to
So
want to
I
make any
guess
changes.
my question is, do we put it on the agenda at the town hall meeting, or do we do it now, or?
No,
My question to our city manager or to lawyer?
So, yeah, the direction has been given to conduct a town hall on the topic of ALPR cameras within the city of Auburn, which we're happy to host and have that done in September. Relative to an agenda and having this be a Brown Act meeting of the council, if all 5 council members are there, then it clearly is going to be a Brown Act meeting and have an agenda. As far as what the purpose of the action item requested of the council, you know, it's to receive information. No action item will be solicited because that is an informational gathering meeting. As far as an action that the council could take in the future in a forum like this where you have information, additional information, and then an action being requested of you through a recommendation in this setting. I'm hoping that that's responsive to your question,
Yes, it
Councilmember.
does. Thank you.
Okay.
I just want to make that clear to the public.
And just for the record also, just to notify my colleagues of this as well, as you know, I sit on the board of directors for Cal Cities. And so I've been having conversations with my colleagues up and down the state as to how this issue is affecting them as well. And I'll bring some of that information to the town hall and share as well, because this is being discussed at the statewide level for the state of California.
Great. thank you. Do we have any public comment from the council?
I'd just like to say, Music on the Square Friday night is alive and well, and I would love to see some city council people there and our mayor.
Oh, yeah, I'll be
Not
there.
to put you on the spot. And also Confluence students there, come listen to Music on the Square. Anyway, so it's exciting, come please, and our on-demand bus is free every Saturday and Sunday.
Friday and Saturday.
Friday and Saturday until 6, right? Till 6, 7? 7 p.m. so you can listen an hour and then go home, or we'd like you to stay longer, eat and enjoy yourselves. But anyway, a little enjoyment from everybody there.
I had a quick thing. School for the high school started on Friday. On Wednesday, we have all the elementary schools starting. There's going to be morning traffic again and all of those fun things that go along. So keep an eye out for kids that are walking to school in the morning, and just be a little bit patient with all the parents that are getting used to driving their kids to school and being stuck in lines and all that kind of fun stuff. So congratulations to all the people starting school again. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Yes. And thank you to Public Works for repainting all the crosswalks.
You have public comment, you have to go. Are we still doing public?
We do have a city events page on our website that our city clerk maintains and has all the stuff from the chamber and ARD and all those kinds of folks. So if anyone wants to know about events in town, that stuff's all posted there if anyone has any questions.
There's also events
And there's
in
Explore
Auburn.
Auburn, Visit Placer.
Yeah. Yeah. And sorry, I will miss music on Friday because I'm going to be helping maintain the trophy for kickball.
Oh yes, we'll be playing kickball,
Yeah.
so we'll miss the music. We'll be at the food truck.
Come
fiesta.
right after.
Okay, deal. Okay. Next up, we have a public hearing.
We will not be offended if you don't want to stay for
Oh, yeah,
all of
you
the
can
other
leave.
items. You're
You-
welcome.
yeah.
You're
You don't
welcome
have
to
to
stay, but
Madam
if you don't
Mayor,
want to stay,
yeah, why don't we
we
just
won't
have
be
a
offended at
2-minute
all.
recess? So if people that don't want to
Do
stay
you
can
want to
leave.
listen to public
Just have 2
hearings? They're
Yeah,
riveting.
2-minute recess
2-minute
for.
recess. Well, and I'm going to go.
Sure. You want to?
Oh, I have a knee injury. I don't know if you saw when I first sat down. I bent it too much. It's like, oh, it was everything I could do not to scream. Oh no, I'm so. Oh, that's really bad. Oh my God, are you okay? Oh really? Okay. Oh wow. Well, I'm glad you're all right. Oh, thank you. I beefed it on the, to use the parlance, in front of the Sierra
Yes.
Grill.
I know, as
of
public, I was like,
the-
I don't know what.
On the Sunday before last Sunday, and I can't feel a portion of my leg. There's some nerve damage. I messed up. I have a. Luckily, you can't really see what's under here, but you don't want to. You certainly didn't want to before. Thank you, I appreciate it. I'm just gonna take a more central seat so I'm not behind the people speaking here. But I am sticking around. No, normally I just hang out over here by the microphone. So. Yeah.
All right. Oh. Sorry, we'll just wait for Sandy. False alarm. All right, and we're back. All right, next we've got public hearing. This is a notice to the public. City Council, when considering a matter scheduled for hearing, will take the following actions. First, a presentation by staff, followed by opening the public hearing, accepting public testimony, closing the public hearing, council comments and questions, followed by council action. So we'll start tonight with a presentation by staff on an ordinance amending the food trucks.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. Jonathan Wright, your Economic Development Director. Tonight before you have an ordinance that amends a 2013 ordinance. The 2013 ordinance was obviously created when there was a lot of concern over food trucks and how they might affect the brick and mortar businesses. We created this handy dandy little map that said no food trucks in Old Town and downtown. And I want to clarify right now that this is not addressing any provision for on-street vending. This is strictly for off-street, on private property vending. So in 2013, the only way you could do a food truck, well, when it was drafted, currently the only way you can have a food truck in town is if you do a use permit. And by that use permit, you cannot have it any longer than 2 hours per 24-hour period, which we know how food trucks are being utilized in the community and in surrounding areas. And so we were actually approached by businesses that are moving into Old Town, downtown saying, why aren't we allowed to do this? Food trucks nowadays are ancillary and in support of a lot of these businesses. They're bringing them in for celebrations. They're bringing them in for promotions. We have a couple of new businesses in town that are gearing up, and their business model is to actually have food trucks involved with them. In fact, I believe you have public comment at the dais from one property owner, the owner of the PG&E building, who has a tenant that wants to move in there, create a restaurant slash bar grill kind of setup, but really wants to support his tenant there with food truck activity. And then right across the street, you have Avant Garden that used to be there, the old gas station location. They have expressed their desire to have a food truck on a permanently rotating basis. So because right now the size of the building, all the things that would have to go into the building to create a commercial kitchen doesn't afford them the opportunity to have food service there. And so along with their wine bar, they want to be able to provide some type of ancillary food, which would be provided in the form of a food truck should this ordinance pass. Now, we wanted to be sensitive nonetheless to businesses. That's why we're not addressing anything on the on-street portion of it. They can't just pull up in front of an existing brick and mortar and just start vending to take over, part of the market share for that business. We made it specific to the support for existing businesses, which means it has to be ancillary. There's a number of regulations in here that specify, and this went to Planning Commission twice. The first go around, we had some
vagueness in the language when we started talking about temporary, what is actually temporary. We heard from property owners that were concerned about these going in residential areas. We have since cleaned up the map so that that's no longer affecting, or it no longer appears that that's an option. They had concern over, what does temporary look like? So the Planning Commission gave direction to come back with a new ordinance that had specific guidelines. That is the ordinance you have before you. I left it in track changes if you have a color version, so you can kind of see the previous version and what we've maneuvered between the June meeting and then the July ultimate resolution that's put before you this morning or this evening, addressing the food trucks. So the provision ancillary mobile vending is specified in this. It also has several requirements. So no more than 6 hours within a 24-hour period at a location. So that would allow them to move on to the property around, lunchtime, serve all the way through dinner, and pack up and go. They have to have authorization from the property owner. So it specifically says that they have to have somebody that is able to give them authorization to be there. So again, they're ancillary. They're not there to vend, to just make money on their own. They're there in conjunction with and in support of an existing business. Therefore, they have to have the owner's permission. They have to notify the planning department in at least 24 hours in advance and receive authorization. And that authorization is only good for a certain amount of time, and that they must comply with all health code requirements, as well as having the business supply them with, if they don't already have it, a bathroom facility as well as hand washing station and so forth. So it tightens up a lot of the provisions that would otherwise allow somebody just to come on the property, maybe even try to rent property to vend from, to create their own kind of market there. This tightens that up. There's also the provision for the use permit that's still in there. We struck the 2-hour provision. What that means is now in town, let's just say Crooked Lane wanted to have food trucks all the time. And so they could come in for a use permit to allow them to have a constant rotation of food trucks. Any of the other businesses, even in Old Town, could come in for a use permit. That way they go through the process that's, with notice, opportunity. It gets to be vet by the community, the surrounding, people that are affected by it. And then the compatibility becomes the sidebars that are then put on it based off the use permit. So each one's on a case-by-case basis. I see concern from the council.
I'm sorry, wait. So the use permit is different than what we're doing tonight?
So there's 2 provisions in there that are being amended. The only provision for the use permit is it's removing the provision for the 2-hour requirement. Because as we know, food trucks in the community are not being used for 2 hours and not under a use permit. So this it opens up the door for a legal way to legitimize the use of food trucks that we're already observing within the community.
Okay.
The other provision is just the ancillary, which provides for those on the map that you have before you, and would allow them to do that in conjunction with promotions, in conjunction with that type of thing. As you already see, there's
But
those
that's
types
no
of
more than 5 times within 30-day period.
Right. But if they exceed that, or they want to have a food truck there longer, then they go through the use permit process and have it done that way. So this is just providing some flexibility for promotion, some flexibility for businesses in this area that have been asking for this type of use to have those temporary uses. But if they want to do something long-term, they have to go through the use permit process. Any more questions from the council?
I had a question. On the map,
Yeah.
what does the airport businesses, are they included, or what's their stipulation, like the breweries?
Right. So anybody that falls into the zoning under D1, so any of those commercial or industrial, which I believe that the airport does follow under the M1 industrial park, or no, the light manufacturing, they could come in for a use permit, yes.
So they need to use, so the 2 breweries up there
Right.
cannot function the same way somebody right in downtown can.
Right. The temporary provisions are only for the businesses in downtown. the way it was set up. And that was specifically because that was the area that asked for it. You know, we're trying to be sensitive to being able to regulate these things and monitor it. So this is kind of a test case to go out the door and to see how it works. We can always come back and amend an ordinance at some point in the future, whether we want to expand it or even bring back some of these provisions, so.
Sure. I just want to be fair to businesses who are currently using food trucks. And then also on the map, recognizing folks just past Elm, like Two Ass, are they not included?
They're not included in the ancillary provisions right now, just simply because we were trying to do it for the commercial core areas, and those are the areas that have requested it. But now, let's just say Two Ass Brewing could come in for a use permit should this pass, to have food trucks there on a rotating basis or however they want to do that.
Okay. And you worked with DBA. I know we have our DBA president here all the DBA knows.
Right.
That-
DBA's
okay.
been informed, OTBA's also been informed as well. You know, it's a very limiting provision already because a lot of these businesses in Old Town, downtown don't have off-street parking anyway, so they don't really have a place to put one of these. So there's only a handful of businesses that could benefit from it, and that's basically the handful that's been asking for this provision.
Madam Mayor, I have a couple questions. Thank you very much, Jonathan. I appreciate that. Just looking at page 101 of the packet, which talks about the following conditions under which this is allowed. It says B, it says written authorization from the property owner and person authorized to bind the business is required. So you're saying that you want the property owner, who might be different than the business owner. And I just want to clarify, when you say bind the business,
Legally authorized. to give
legally
permission
authorized to sign on behalf of the business. So it's the property owner and, not and or, but both. They'd have to obtain permission from, authorization from both,
Right.
property and the business itself. Okay, thank you. That was really the only question that I had.
I was just wondering if did any businesses object or express any concern?
The only one that has.
Did you approach any of the restaurants that might be affected?
Most of the restaurants have been involved in discussions with this because of the OTBA meetings and the DBA meetings. The ones that have, you know, expressly come to us about it, there are people that are in the community that are talking to other businesses as well and trying to garner support for it. The only opposition we heard from a business, not opposition, the only concern we heard from a business came from the taco
tree.
Yes.
Taco tree.
And specifically, the map was once again amended to pull all the opportunity for this type of use off of High Street in response to that, as well as putting a provision there because there was concern over bathroom usage.
Okay, thank you.
All right, presentation by staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and open this public hearing. Do we have any public comment?
Hello, Mayor Davis and City Councilwomen. My name's Michelle Tuggle. I'm with the Auburn Area Chamber of Commerce, and we are here just to voice our support for the amended ordinance. We, and specifically the Government Affairs Economic Development Committee, has discussed it and heard the presentation. We believe that the parameters of this new ordinance revisions are well thought out, and it gives businesses a chance to have special celebrations and bring people into their business if they don't have room for a kitchen. So we are in support.
Great, thank you. Got some jazz hands in the back.
Oh, did we get jazz hands? Good. Always applies.
You missed the first part. Don't worry.
I missed it? Oh, sorry. Hi.
No
my
jazz hands for you, Dallas.
Hi, Council. My name is Dallas Drake. I am the owner of a business in downtown Auburn called The Vault at 949 Lincoln Way. I think this is a great opportunity, and here is why. As we've invested heavily in the community, we've done a big restructure, and we spent a lot of money. Of course, we've invested into a licensed commercial food facility. We've done all the permitting, all the processing, and even with having that brick and mortars investment and competing with my own kitchen, I still think there's a value add for the community by creating and taking control of these unique opportunities so we can create a variety, with the fostering the variety in the district that we even call home. Like, this will create an opportunity where there's always something new for a consumer, a visitor, a tourist, or just a family. Some of the current offerings we have are outside the normal limits of cost, or we've already done it before. And I'm a big, adamant for my own business, even if they're not going to eat the food from my place, I don't go against any other restaurant. I don't say it's their fault or fight against them when my customer doesn't start with me and they start with them. So it's no difference. But if I can bring more customers in general, maybe that person will come down and they love that burrito truck. And they might actually find out that the sushi place is their new favorite place next, or the pizza place. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of competition. And I think, someone invested heavily and some other businesses are investing and could use it at certain points. I think it's a great try. So I think it'd be great if we can make it happen.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. More jazz hands. Good job. Any other public comment? All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Do we have council comments or questions? No. Seeing none.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion that we hold the first reading by title only to introduce the ordinance amending the city's regulation on mobile food vendors.
I'll second it.
All right, roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Amara.
Yes.
Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Riddell Harris. Aye. Mayor Davis.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jonathan.
And it comes back to us. for
And
final
it will come
adoption.
back to us
For final adoption.
for final adoption in 30 days.
I think we're,
Okay.
When is this going to come
When
back?
will it come back?
because this is just first reading,
Second reading will come back at your next meeting?
next,
And then
next
30
next
days from
meeting.
the second
Okay.
meeting?
2 weeks,
2
and then
weeks.
it's in effect 30 days after.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we have council business. These items include discussion and/or action by the city council, starting with Surplus Land Act presentation.
I don't get to come up to your podium very often.
I know. How's it
Welcome,
feel?
welcome.
We don't have a cup
from over
holder,
here.
sorry.
It's all right.
Gary's class on surplus land.
What's that?
Gary's now our teacher on surplus
Yeah.
land.
I will try to be direct and concise. While she loads up the presentation, a few general thoughts here and an overview of this law. This is about housing. This is about the housing crisis. California's been in a housing crisis for many decades. We're in one now. This is one of the many ways that the legislature has attempted to address this. There's no one silver bullet for this. There are lots of different laws out there that force us to think about housing, force us to approve housing, even when it might conflict with local laws. And this is one of the things that all local governments have to deal with. It includes cities, it includes counties. It does not include the state. The state of California has a separate surplus process. That's not what we're going to talk about tonight. This is the process that applies to cities, also to counties, and to special districts as well, who might want to dispose of property, and we'll define that in just a moment.
And Gary, can you talk about the context and the reason why we asked you to
Yes,
give us?
that's my next. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Thank
very
you.
next. So I was asked to give this presentation because the city does have property, and you do lease that property, and occasionally you sell that property or transfer it. So questions were raised. You have leases for the chamber, the Welcome Center, the museum, the Carnegie Library, to almost free for all. And all of these leases come before you. You see them on agendas. We, staff members, are always thinking about this law in the background. So when we are renewing leases or negotiating them or bringing forth leases for you to think about, we are always thinking about this law. Planning staff, Public Works, city manager, and myself. So that's the context, and we're here to give the background on what it requires, what it doesn't require, and how we follow it and comply with the law. This law does not apply to property at the airport. So when you see leases here for long-term, we're not complying with the Surplus Land Act, and that's because the airport is a federally obligated airport. You cannot put housing there, so we don't have to think about housing out at the airport. And so the airport is exempt from that. All right. So it regulates the sale and transfer of property, and also recently the leasing of property. And I'll go into detail on the leasing piece of this. This is a relatively new addition in just the last few years. Yeah, so, and it does put restrictions on how we can do that. You have to designate the land surplus land, that's a defined term, exempt surplus land, also a defined term, before you can dispose of it. So we'll go into detail on what each of those things means. So what is surplus land? Surplus property. Property that is not necessary for the city's use. And that does not mean that you want to make money or make a profit, or that you think it should go to private hands, or that a commercial use would be better. It has to be for your use. So you have to think about, what are our current uses? What are the city's long-term uses, short-term? Do we need this for the city's purpose, for the services we deliver? If the answer is no, then it is surplus property. If the answer is yes, it doesn't meet this test, and you should not be disposing of it. You should be keeping it. It doesn't include things like commercial and industrial uses, or if you need revenue. When is it disposed of? Certainly when you sell the property, it's disposed of. But it's also disposed of when you lease the property for longer than 15 years, and that includes the initial lease term and any extensions to the lease term. A little bit of background on this. That law was changed in 2024, so this is a recent change, expressly applying it to leases. For a long time, the law only talked about dispose, and it used lease only once or twice. And it was an open question whether or not the law applied to leases. HCD, the Department of Housing and Community Development, oversees this law. They publish what are called the Surplus Land Act guidelines, and their guidelines, even prior to 2024, applied this law to leases. But there was a dispute on whether or not the statute actually required that. That was cleared up in 2024. It now does apply to leases if the term is at least 15 years, including any extensions. A lease for surplus land where no development or demolition will occur regardless of the term of the lease is not subject to these requirements. But if you're leasing it under any other circumstances, you do have to comply with the law, 15 years or longer.
Gary, do you want?
A little bit.
Sure. Yeah, so the question is this exemption at the bottom. So there might be land that cannot be developed and you can't put anything on it. Maybe there's a conservation easement, or maybe you are going to restrict it in a way where no development can occur. You don't have to comply with this under those circumstances because you can't put housing on it. The thinking here is they want you to be thinking about putting housing on it, and if it's not possible. There are some properties that are restricted or deed restricted in a way. If you think about the School Park Preserve that's just right here in your backyard, you could never put housing on that. There's a conservation easement there. And there are other properties owned by the Placer Land Trust in the community where a similar restriction would apply.
Okay, but it's not that you don't have any plans of doing anything with it. It's just if another person couldn't demolish what's there and put some.
Yeah, it has to be where it's not legally possible to develop or
Could be too
demolish
small,
it.
it could be,
Okay.
you know, there's no
I just wanted to
access.
clarify,
Yeah.
like, if
Yeah.
we don't plan on doing
It's a
any of
pretty
that-
narrow exception because most properties can be rezoned or, you know, these sorts of things.
Thank you.
Gary, I just want to touch upon this 15-year lease issue.
Sure.
Because that's relevant for us at the Carnegie and also at our old city hall, where we have multiple individuals that we're leasing. And so what this does, in essence, is it no longer allows us to lease those facilities for longer than 15 years. Unless we go through this Surplus Land Act process.
That's right.
But then what happens once we go through this process? Are we then giving them the property, selling it to them for $1? Or, I mean, what ultimately is the end result there? Because we have the Carnegie, and we'd love to be able to lease that in perpetuity
Right.
for the nonprofit that's doing a fantastic job, but we cannot do that anymore.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think that's an important note. It's not a reflection of this council's desire. It is what state law imposes on you when you're considering leasing or selling property. There is a process, which I'll go through later on, which talks about a notice of availability, and then you have to negotiate in good faith with other people who might want to lease it or purchase it for housing or other purposes. So it is a process. It is lengthy. It's costly because staff has to be assigned to this to do it. You have to negotiate in good faith for at least 90 days. It often takes longer than that. So it's a process.
But then does it ultimately, at the end of the day, let's say we go through that process and we're doing it so that we can have a longer than 15-year lease? Because I'm confident that we all want the California Welcome Center and the Chamber and Western States
Right.
Trail Museum and so forth. if we go through that process and nobody wants it, then do we still own the building? And it
Yes.
just allows us to enter into a longer-term lease, is that correct?
That's correct.
Got it. Thank you very much for the
Yep.
clarification.
Do we have to sorry, we're just
No, no,
asking all
that's
kinds
fine.
of questions and
Go
not
ahead.
letting you do your presentation.
That's okay.
If we have different leases that started at different times with that building, so can we make parts of it available while the other lease still exists, or we have to make the whole building available at the same time? Because I mean, I don't know if someone would want to move in with a neighbor, but they might want to take the whole building. So I just don't know, how does that work when you have different tenants that have different lengths of time for
It's
leases?
any lease and right, which is a right to occupy, that's what a lease is, for a period of time. Any lease of any portion of the building
Okay,
would
so you have to
comply
make
with
those
this.
individual portions of the building available.
Right, yeah,
But
so if you,
I would think that we would just do the whole building rather than do the building separate parts of it. That's so much work and energy and time.
I
and
agree, I
money.
just don't know if we have
we can-
leases set up that way that they all end
Yeah.
at the same time or
They
not.
don't all end at the same time, but we can
could
still
still do it.
go forward with this, and it would just affect the whole building, regardless. We just would have to do it before the 15 years is up. For whatever lease ends first, we would have to get this completed before that first lease ends, so.
Okay, thank you.
yeah. All right, so when is it exempt? There's, in the state law, there's a series of definitions of exempt surplus property. This is property that you don't have to go through this process for. I'm just going to list a few here. These are the ones that struck me as the most likely to come up. There are others. So whenever we're complying with this law, we go and check, does it meet any of these definitions to see if we can follow a more streamlined process. But small properties less than a half acre in area, so long as they're not contiguous to land that is publicly owned or used for open space. Land conveyed to another government agency, so you can transfer property to another agency in this area without complying with this. Land that was formerly a street right-of-way or easement that is conveyed to an owner of adjacent property. So you'll note from Public Works, this occasionally happens. You'll have a right-of-way that's not needed anymore. You might vacate the right-of-way and then transfer that small strip to an adjacent property owner. That's allowed without going through this process. Land that will be developed with qualifying affordable housing or mixed-use projects, as long as you record an affordability covenant. And a covenant is just an agreement that's recorded against the property that ensures those affordability levels are maintained into the future. But you have to meet certain affordability levels in state law for a certain amount of time, and a certain amount of the property has to be dedicated to housing. So it's 80% of the property for housing. It's got to be affordable to moderate and below, and there has to be a certain number of units. So if you are selling it for the very purpose that the Surplus Land Act exists for, then you don't need to comply with the Surplus Land Act. But that's a pretty narrow exception there. Land subject to legal restrictions prohibiting housing, as long as you did not impose them, right? So you can't get around this law by imposing no housing restrictions and then don't comply. But some properties might have an easement or other restrictions on it. And then state trust lands, lands held in trust by the state, don't follow this process either.
Isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm.
What's good for the goose is not good for the gander.
Yes.
Do any of these help us with our leases? Any of them
I don't
apply
think
the exemptions?
I don't think any of these apply in the lease situation. No, if you were selling the property to someone to build housing, this might apply. If it's a small strip of land that really can't be developed, that you are trying to transfer to an adjacent property owner. But generally speaking, if it's a building that can be occupied and used, you're going to comply with this process.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have to declare it exempt surplus land, notify HCD 30 days before you dispose of it, and then dispose of it after that. So even when, to take a couple steps back, property is surplus or exempt surplus, regardless of which one you're doing, you have to declare it as such at the beginning. So you would adopt a resolution that says this is exempt surplus land and here's why, here's the definition. Adopt the resolution, send it to HCD. HCD then has 30 days to review it and comment. They might disagree. They might send a letter and say this doesn't meet the definition. But after that 30 days, then you can lease it or sell it. Same with surplus land. You have to declare it surplus at the front end, notify HCD that you're going through the process, and then dispose of it at the other end of the process. So when property is not exempt, surplus land, it is surplus land and it's not exempt, the city has to issue a notice of availability. You have to let folks know that it is suitable for housing, and local agencies and interested housing sponsors listed on the HCD's website. So HCD has a whole list of housing developers that are interested in this. You have to send the notice availability to them and anyone else who's interested, and then give them a period of time to respond. If it's open space, you have to make it available to other city and county park and recreation departments, regional park authorities, and the State Resources Agency. If it's suitable for schools, you have to send the notice over to any school district. And if it's suitable for an infill opportunity zone or covered by a transit village plan, any county, city, or successor agency to a former redevelopment agency or a housing authority or transportation agency. So you have to think about where the land falls into this and make sure you are giving the notice to everyone who might be interested. They then have 60 days to respond to your notice of availability. At the end of that 60 days, you must engage in good faith negotiations with anyone who says they're interested, and you have to do that for 90 days. You cannot negotiate or condition disposal on the following terms: prohibiting residential use, reducing the number of units or lot coverage below what the zoning code or the general plan allows, requiring design standards that have a substantial adverse effect on the viability or affordability of affordable housing. In other words, you can't prevent it from doing what the law is trying to achieve here, and you can't put restrictions in the sale or the deed when you transfer it that would make it impossible or very difficult to put housing in. You can limit residential use or density if there's a specific adverse impact on public health and safety. If that sounds familiar, that's the same standard that you use for certain housing projects in the planning department, and this is appearing now in other contexts, including here. It does not limit the city's authority to approve land use, zoning, or entitlement decisions for the property. So once it is transferred or leased, you still have your zoning power, just like you do for any other property, and you can continue to zone and rezone and impose restrictions on it. If these negotiations don't result in agreement after 90 days, the city can then dispose of the land without further regard to the Surplus Land Act, except you have to notify HCD and you have to record an affordability covenant. So just to put this in perspective, you can, after going through this process, still sell the property, but it then still has to be deed restricted so that at least 15% of the units are rented at lower income households for a period of at least 55 years. So it will ensure that the future uses are subject to that requirement, even if you sell it to a private folks not following, that weren't interested as part of this process. If multiple entities are interested in purchasing the land, the city has to prioritize affordable housing. So if 10 people responded and only 2 of them wanted to put affordable housing in, you would definitely need to negotiate with those 2 in addition to the others. You might choose to negotiate with all of them, but you must prioritize affordable housing. If you receive multiple housing proposals, prioritize the first one based on the number of units. If one of the proposals wants to put in 100 and the second one wants to put in 80, you're going to prioritize the higher one. And then also by the average level of affordability. There are different levels of affordability. If it's lower, you're going to prioritize that one. For exempt property, the city then submits the exempt findings at least 30 days prior to disposition. This is your notification to HCD. For non-exempt property, the city must submit a disposition summary at least 30 days prior to disposition with a description of your notice of availability and the negotiations you went through, proof of delivery that you sent the notice of availability to everyone who was entitled to it, and then draft a copy of the affordability covenant that you're going to record against the property. HCD has 30 days to issue a findings letter. If it thinks that you didn't follow the law, or it wasn't exempt surplus land, or some other issue was missing, they have 30 days to send you a letter. If you don't receive anything within 30 days, you can then proceed with the transaction. If you have a finding letter, 60 days to cure it, and you have to hold an open and public meeting to review and consider the alleged violation, which means you have to place it on your agenda here at a meeting. If you don't cure the violation, there are penalties. For the first violation, it's 30% of the disposition, and for the second and later violations, it's 50% of the disposition. And so that's fair market value, not necessarily what you sold it for. So HCD will look at the purchase price, they'll also have appraisals done, and they will decide what that price should be. So there are some agencies under some circumstances that choose this route, but it is a significant payment. It goes to HCD and it goes into a special housing fund that HCD administers for folks who want to put in affordable housing. These are the Surplus Land Act guidelines that HCD puts together. Many, many pages, goes into more detail than this for every step of that, including leases and also for sales as well. And that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a comment. I mean, it is amazing to me that state law has done this. You know, we have 2 buildings that we own that we lease to nonprofits that better our community overall.
Right.
And now for us to continue leasing this property for the benefit of our community, we have to go through this elaborate process, an expensive, time-consuming process. And I just can't believe there's not any kind of exemption for nonprofits or what have you. I get that there's housing needs, and jurisdictions like ours, you know, we understand that, and we zone properly for housing, we meet our RENA numbers, we're in compliance. But we get penalized with this. I mean, the Carnegie Library was vacant and falling down. Is that what the state would rather us do, is have a historic landmark fall down because we can't have a lease? So it's just incredibly frustrating to me. And I just had to put that on the record. But I really appreciate your giving us this overview. And it's very clear to me that we do need to pursue this process so that we can continue to lease those 2 properties to the nonprofits that do such tremendous, work and are such a benefit to our community.
Thank you. 2 questions.
Sure.
We've confirmed that both of these locations are more than a half acre in size.
Yes, I believe so. And also, I think there's a second clause to that exemption too, which I don't have up here. Of
course.
But yes, I don't think it applies.
Okay. Who does this work generally land on? Is this, who is going to be doing the
I don't
work?
think we have a dedicated Surplus Land Act folks.
Right.
It typically is the planning department that would take the charge on this, and probably your economic development director as well, in part because this is related to business and use of the buildings. So probably both. And then city manager's office has historically also played a role in that.
Okay. And is there any way to have a nonprofit in a building that's not, I mean, maybe it's not the, I don't know, that it's not leased, that there are just offices that the city is in contract with a nonprofit?
Yeah, so there are different ways to use a building, right? There are license agreements, there are use agreements, there are maintenance agreements. There are certainly other cities that have, use of the building in exchange for certain tasks or certain upkeep of the building. The question is whether or not you have an exclusive right to occupy that you can enforce against all others as to certain spaces. And so whether or not you call it a lease, that's going to be the test. And so we need to look at what are they using it for, what rights do they have under the lease, and things like that to draw that distinction. But certainly there are community groups in other jurisdictions that will use a building for certain purposes at certain times, and that's not necessarily a lease. And then we'll do other things in exchange.
They're
like
providing
upkeep.
some kind of a specific service on behalf of.
Right.
But the other thing is that our nonprofits are looking to secure outside funding.
Right.
And they need those leases. They need that security to demonstrate that they're going to be there for a long time. So it's in their best interest as well, because a license agreement is something that's renewed on a regular basis, and they have to provide a specific service for us. So they're doing something specific, not just, community support or what have you. They have to do a specific,
So just piggybacking on that question, if the city were to utilize the building for meetings or any time, would that exempt it because it would be part of the city services?
It will depend on what the agreement is with the other folks who are using it, right? So if somebody came here to City Hall and said, I want to use this room twice a month to hold a meeting, we wouldn't characterize that as a lease because it's just a use for a period of time, limited use, and not an exclusive right. So if it's a joint space like that where different groups are using it for different purposes over time, I don't think it would comply with this because it's not a lease. Yeah.
Well, we tried.
Yeah.
And one last question, because I do agree, it's too bad we have to go through this process, but is it better that we do it sooner than later? Is that your recommendation? Is it something, how long does the process take?
The process takes at least 6 months. It can take longer, depending on those negotiations with whoever responds, right? So if you get lots of people responding, negotiating with 10 different parties, you have to do it for at least 90 days, but you're likely to get counter proposals and things back, and it pushes it out longer.
Okay.
So it takes time to do it. The other thing to consider, separate from this law, anytime the city leases property for longer than 55 years, you have to do that under a separate competitive process. That competitive process, and that's why a lot of your leases are 55 years, or you'll see that around. So if it's longer than that, you have to go through a competitive process and adopt a lease by ordinance, and there's a separate process for that. But up to 55, you don't, other than complying with this law. So I think if the goal is to enter into a long-term lease, yes, you should start this process. It does take time. The leases are assignable, I believe, and so I think you could theoretically lease it to a master and then have the other tenants' leases be in it as well if there was a group that wanted to take this on. So that was your point about the different leases having different terms. I think there's ways that we could address that with leases and subleases too.
Thank you.
So with the situation that we have now, where we have these leased buildings, when we do the process that takes 6 months and say nobody is interested and we end up leasing to the same folks, not saying that will happen, but if that scenario happened, then do we have 15 more years and we have to do it again? Is it good forever after that? How does that work?
It's not good forever. It's good for the length of the lease that you enter into following the process.
So we would enter into a really long lease at that point with those folks.
Right.
If that would be the way of preventing having to do it every, or a more frequent basis. Got it.
That's
Okay.
right. And that longer lease could be for an initial term with additional, so it doesn't have to be for one chunk.
This may not be a you question, but are there third parties who do this kind of work so we wouldn't have to impose on permitting or economic development that already have a lot of things going on? Since
Yes.
it's short-term work that has a beginning and an end, it might make more sense to have a third party do it for us in a way.
Yes, there are definitely companies that only do this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Because, I mean, it seems like it's a very involved process where you need to know it pretty well to make sure you meet all of the requirements so you don't get penalized for things. So it seems like having someone with an expertise in it rather than having our staff have to do it once every 50 years makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes sense. All right.
Any other questions or comments? Public comment?
Thank you all.
Thank you, Carrie.
Okay, thank you, Gary.
Hi, my name's Eric Robb, by the way. Nice to meet you all. I've been reviewing the terms of the law, and I have some concerns about what happens with the land once it's been disposed of. I'm wondering if there's any kind of prevention of land that's being used for affordable housing, and then just the person that it's sold to, then just getting rid of it at some point for high development, high income housing.
There are lots of restrictions with regards to affordable housing. So if there was an affordable housing company that came in, built affordable housing, then they're required there's 50 years or there's a covenant that's placed on that it cannot be changed.
So that would
So-
apply in addition to land that's disposed of in these
Yes,
things.
if they're going to build that affordable housing pursuant to the state law at whatever level it is for income, then they have to keep it for that.
Would it be potentially advisable to or possible to create some sort of city board that is responsible for overseeing this kind of thing, leaving a law that seems to be in benefit to private contractors from across the state, because you can, according to this, the parties can just say, I'm interested in every single county in the entire state of California. And that seems to me of a kind of like a more predatory contractor relationship than I think, especially a lot of people here, would be capable with. And then a private corporation speaking to another private corporation on behalf of the city, it doesn't seem like a recipe to of a fantastic situation going on there. If possible, I think it'd be nice if we had some kind of like city board committee, something. I know it, more bureaucracy, it's more government or something, but to ensure that we don't end up with a situation where any land that we want to dispose of, according to the terms here, doesn't just end up in the hands of those terrible developers that you see on like YouTube shorts, where the drywall wall is cracking, the shingles aren't installed properly, there's leaks everywhere, there's gas leaks coming out of places, and yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. There are some agencies that do, when they have property, like they did that at the school district, if they have excess surplus property, they'll convene committees with the community members and things like that in order to look at that. We don't have any actual property we're looking to dispose of right now. We just have some leased property. So it may not make sense to do that for that particular case, but if we did have a large piece of land that we were looking to dispose of, that might make sense to put a committee together to look at it.
Sure, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are you standing in the back for public comment? Yeah.
Hello again. First off, I just wanted to say, with your guys' interest in Carnegie Hall and stuff like that, I volunteer with Placer County Museums, so seeing support for nonprofits and community efforts like that means a lot. Really glad to see it. And I also appreciate that you guys are, wanting to keep small city and county level stuff at city and county level, and aren't just all for privatization of public land. It seems like with the current governor debate, it's going to be an issue, but I like to see that my representatives support that. I just wanted to say, thank you, and I appreciate it. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other public comments? All right, this was just for information, so thank you, Mr. Bell.
Yes, thank you, Gary.
Yeah.
Although I know that this is just, it doesn't say it's an action item, but do we need to bring it back to request that we move forward with this? I mean, can we provide any direction? It just says it's a presentation. It's not noticed as an action
Or
item.
maybe a
so-
plan of how to deal with the leases and the appropriate way to get to this point?
Yeah, it's not an action, but you can give that direction without a vote if that's the council direction to staff.
If
certainly.
another council colleague would
Yeah.
agree that we would just direct staff to look into this with regards to the Carnegie and the old city hall. So, yep, so we have, thank you.
Confirming those are our two properties, right? That we haven't, okay. Don't want one to slip under the radar. Okay. All right, next up we have adoption of revised city council rules and procedures. Is that you, Madam Clerk?
Oh, yeah, sure, Madam Mayor Davis and City Council. The item number 9 for the rules and procedures is just a follow-up from the last meeting. We went over some changes and made those changes, and it was directed to come back on consent. It's my understanding that Councilmember Riddell Harris wants to make one more change to the document, and so I'll have you go over what you would like that to say, and then we'll take a motion for approval.
We talked a little bit before about agenda items coming back repeatedly right after one meeting after another, and that was a little challenging. So I had staff help to come up with maybe some language that might make sense for us to not have the issue of it coming up repeatedly one meeting after the other. If if the majority of the council hasn't been voting for it. So the language that I wanted to propose was, once the city council has considered an agenda item and the majority of the council votes not to proceed, the same or substantially similar item shall not be placed on a future agenda for a period of 3 months. So just give it a little bit of time, unless directed by the majority of the council or required by law. So we could still, if there's a majority of the council that wants to bring it back earlier, it could, but just to keep us from having to spend time and have staff have to spend time putting things repeatedly on the agenda because a council member and two council members request an item be put on the agenda.
Where would that be?
That would be in the agenda and background. It would be section V,
what
section
page?
5, page 9.
Okay.
Well, they don't, are you saying, it's unclear what you're saying, so
Except reconsideration,
they can already put it on the agenda if there's a majority, right?
Yes, but we have a law we have a rule that says 2 people can put it on an agenda. And we've had an issue in the past where 2 people have put the same item on an agenda and the
So you're saying
staff
after
has,
3 months, 2 people can?
Yeah, it's just
But
kind of a
before
waiting
then- but
period.
before the 3 months, you can have a majority.
You'd have to get at least 3 people to decide. So
But
we're
how
not-
can you have 3 people? I guess you can do it with our last agenda.
You'd have to
item.
change somebody's mind in order to get it on.
During
scene.
a session?
Yeah.
Because it's Brown Act. otherwise.
Yeah. So it would just have to, you could bring it up during future council items, and if you get someone to agree, then you could change it. We've just had this challenge in the past of staff spending a lot of time on the same item repeatedly over a short period of time, and I just was trying to find an avenue to kind of at least give it a little breathing room before we bring it back to the council. So just wanted to throw that out as an option and see if there was interest from the rest of the council.
Just as long as it allows for reconsideration, of course. So if an item, and I mean under the Brown, or, parliamentary procedure, if an item was voted upon and it failed, if there was a motion to reconsider, then it could come back at the next meeting. So that would just be the only.
Yeah, I think that's valid.
So just as long as it's, when you say
Yeah.
pursuant to law and parliamentary procedure, or whatever our rules are that we're going to adopt now, instead of Robert's rules, we're doing Rosenberg.
Yeah.
So,
I think, that would be fine with me.
yeah,
just
just
adding that in.
so that
I'm
we're
fine.
not taking
I'm
that
fine
part
with
out. I'm fine with that.
Okay, that's all. If that works, okay. Then that's my amendment that I would like to add.
Okay.
And just for clarity, that's under section 5A and
Yes.
paragraph 1?
Yes.
And is it at the end of that paragraph?
Sure.
All right. Madam Clerk, does that give you enough information for where that's going to go?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, then with that, I'd like to move to approve.
Public comment.
Oh, we gotta do public comment. You're right.
Do we have any
Somebody
public
else might
comment?
want to comment on our rules.
Sorry about that.
Seeing none, would you like to make a motion?
All right, then I would like to make a motion to approve the adoption of the revised city council rules and
I'll
procedures.
second.
Roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Amara.
Yes.
Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Adele Harris.
Aye.
Mayor Davis.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Finally, we will wrap up with reports, and we have the city manager report.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. We have had a busy time since the council's recess. One of the things I did want to announce that we will be starting off the city manager recruitment officially here within the next day or two. So we're very excited to be able to have been working diligently over the past several weeks. And after receiving, feedback as the recruiter has met with each one of you, we've got a nice brochure that's going to be going out. So we're excited to kick that off. The transition has been really smooth, and I just wanted to publicly thank Sean again. It was a pleasure shadowing him and having the transition memo, so just kudos. It was a really, really smooth process. We are also very excited that the general plan and update is out for public review with the environmental impact report, and we expect that at this point to be going to the Planning Commission for a study session on August 18th.
It's from Rachel. She did jazz.
And the city council in November is our current, our target dates for planning commission public hearings October, city council public hearings in November. We were able to get state support on the opportunity zones, which you took back action on at the last meeting. And one of the things that we have a new business license administration system that HDL has taken on, and that transition is also going smoothly. So that is not something that staff needs to administer anymore. HDL will handle that. They're reaching out to the businesses. Personally, I've experienced HDL systems, and it is a really smooth process. So it's nice to see Auburn utilizing that. So we're excited that is happening. And lastly, I just wanted to report out that we had an opportunity to send 3 of our firefighters to help CAL FIRE. We call it's called hire assignment. In essence, you're leasing employees out. CAL FIRE pays for that service. And then we continue to have adequate coverage here in the city through other means, but it's just a great partnership, an opportunity also for those individuals to gain some invaluable experience. So with that concludes my report.
Can I just say real fast, thank you for your work and for coming on. It's been a great transition over to having you help us, and it's instrumental having that interim city manager in between. So I just wanted to say thank you, and we appreciate you being here.
All right. Moving on, future agenda items, discussion and identification of topics that require attention in upcoming meetings. This section allows council members to propose new ideas, unresolved issues, or projects that need further planning or discussion. Any requests from council?
I think we need to make sure we have enough people at the kickball game on Friday.
Don't be looking at me.
I don't think that's a future agenda item.
Well, it's Friday.
It's coming up quick. Sorry. All right, we'll close out here with our city council committee reports. The purpose of these reports is to provide council members with an opportunity to inform the city council and the public about projects and programs discussed during committee and commission meetings. I'll head off with the town hall meeting that's happening tomorrow. It should be lively and wonderful. I hope you all come. And then for the Arts Commission, we are doing free movies in the park at School Park Preserve. Saturdays, we had one last weekend. We have one on the 15th, the 29th, and September 5th. April, I forgot the time. 8 p.m. when it's dark. Lovely venue, family friendly. Bring some food, get it downtown, and enjoy a movie. Council reports?
I have meetings coming up, but nothing to report.
Okay.
I have several things to report out. Just really quickly, I did have coffee with city council member. I see somebody who was there talking. I had a couple people come to talk at Depot Bay, and so I thought it was very beneficial to do that, and I'm glad that we're able to do that. I also wanted just to let you know, we did have a meeting last week with Congressman Barra, who is running to represent this area. As you know, the congressional district has been divided. Congressman Barra was in the area meeting with several different entities, including Placer County Water Agency, but we specifically called a meeting with Sacramento Area Council of Governments, and then myself, and then city council representatives from Rockland, Roseville, Lincoln, Colfax, and Auburn, Loomis. Everybody was there, all of us. Some of us sit on Sacramento Area Council of Government, some in Placer County, on Placer County Transportation Planning Agency. Placer County Planning Transportation Agency also had their CEO present, and we basically talked about SACOG projects within the Placer County area, within Congressman Barra's perspective area. The meeting went very well. It was important for us to just talk about SACOG and the fact that we are a very active board in supporting the projects on a region-wide basis. So, and thanks to James, he was also there since we hosted the meeting. Also, just wanted to announce that I'm very honored to have been elected to a third two-year term to the Board of Directors for Cal Cities on behalf of the Sacramento Valley Region Division. We had our meeting in Grass Valley last week. James was there as well. And so very pleased to be able to represent, thank you, represent Auburn at the statewide level. And we do have our annual conference coming up in Anaheim this year. So hopefully I am going to go one night that I'm there. So yes, I'll probably make a little trip there. But that's all that I have to report.
Great. Councilmember Liddell Harris?
We just appointed 12 great youth into the youth commission, so we're gonna get meetings probably started up in beginning of September. to get that going. So I'm going to be working with Sarah and Jay Ross to be moving that forward. We have a couple of good ideas this year, so that we're going to try to work with some local agencies to get some stuff moving on those. So I'm excited about that. And then there's a meeting for the Air Pollution Control District on Thursday. So if anyone wants to go and hear about air pollution control items, they should be riveting. I'm really excited. So, no, always a good meeting to have. It's nice to have a good representation through Placer County. So, that's it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you all for being here, and we'll adjourn the meeting here tonight at 7:52.